Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Beware the Board, a horror podcast where we watch a randomly selected horror movie every single week. I'm Bob.
I'm Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Bob.
How,
While since I've seen you.
yeah, has it?
Like 7 days.
About a week, yeah. How have you been? You been up to anything interesting?
I guess. It's been a busy week.
Yeah. Has it?
Yeah. I went on vacation.
Oh, I forgot you did that.
So I was off work for the week because it was my
That's nice.
sister's 18th birthday. And she wanted to go to Disneyland because she hasn't been since she was like 2.
Damn.
And she doesn't count that because she doesn't remember it.
I think that's fair.
So we got there like Sunday. We just stayed at the hotel. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we were basically at the parks from start to close.
Oh, I love Disneyland.
Which, Disney's fun, right?
Yeah.
But that was very tiring.
No, it is exhausting. I totally get it.
And what I will say is, like, I enjoyed myself. But I will say, compared to some of the other parks around there, like Universal, Disney is obviously more geared to younger children.
Sure.
I will say, their rides are really impressive for, like, how young you're able to go on all of them. They're designed that way. Or if you're, like, an uber fan of, like, any of the Disney IPs.
Yeah. I've still never been to Universal. I've been to Disney, but I've never been to Universal.
I mean, I really like Universal. Disney was cool because, again, I hadn't been in forever either. So it was a lot of fun. But Universal definitely has more, like, roller coasters and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on which park you're at, there's also stuff like the Mummy ride.
Yeah.
So that's all really cool. Although Disney Hollywood has Twisted Towers, which is super cool because it's a Twilight Zone inspired ride.
Yeah. Wait, didn't they replace that?
Nope. Still there.
Oh.
I was on it and it broke down.
Oh.
We got right to the drop, the lights cut off, and they didn't come back on for a while, and then we had to walk off.
Damn, that sucks.
That was pretty cool. I got to see the inside of the ride and everything.
Oh, that is cool, actually.
Then I got back. I had like a day to relax Friday, and then we're recording on Sunday. So yesterday, Saturday, I went to a beer festival all day.
Yeah.
So, again, also very fun, but it's just a lot of drinking.
No, yeah, I get it.
And trying different stuff, which is cool if you like beer, but it's also a lot. Now I'm recording today, so it's been very, very busy.
No, I get it. I've also had a busy week for other unrelated reasons. But I did do something really exciting yesterday. I already told you about this, but I'm going to bring this up on the podcast. Our D&D game started back up yesterday.
Loser.
And it was incredible. I had such a good time, but I'm very mentally exhausted from that experience.
No, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
But that's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about horror movies.
Is it?
Sometimes,
yeah.
when we get there. Before we get there.
Speaking of horror movies.
Oh, what's up?
So, Hollywood, Disney Hollywood, has I forget what the actual name of it is, but it's a drive-in inspired, like, restaurant.
Oh, that's cool.
And, we went there. It's really cool inside. You're in, like, fake cars. You get food and stuff. And then they have a screen that plays trailers for a bunch of old, like, 40s sci-fi movies.
Oh, that's sick.
So I was like, you know what? I haven't seen, like, a lot of these. So I've been on a kick watching them recently. In the last couple days.
Any horror movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of that thing that we've talked about where it's like, yeah, it's sci-fi, but a lot of it's kind of vaguely horror related.
Sure.
Like I watched them the other day. That
Okay.
was fun.
Cool. Maybe we'll do a category like... Oh, yeah, that's a good category.
No, it was a good category. I just thought I should mention it because they're cool.
Yeah. It sucks that there's not a drive-in anywhere near here. The nearest drive-in's like, what, 2 hours away or something?
I mean, that's better than some places.
Or not 2 hours. It's like 40 minutes or something. But still.
Yeah.
It's like ass. Well, in horror news, I don't have anything super crazy this week because there was nothing super interesting that I saw when I was like perusing my usual places I look. The only thing I saw that was cool is we watched House of a Thousand Corpses a while ago on the podcast. We watched that.
Is this about the Trick or Treat Studios thing?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I saw this.
It's super cool.
They sent me an email. I bought stuff from them.
Nice. But House of a Thousand Corpses, we watched that in convention prep.
Yeah, that was like, what, second or third thing?
It was a while ago. I don't remember.
because I think we watched it right after.
Halloween.
No, I think we watched it right after the first movie. Oh my god,
Dude,
Terrifier 2. I think we watched it right after because it's another Grindhouse film.
Oh, probably. That makes more sense. It's getting a cooperative 1 to 4 player board game from Trick or Treat Studios via Kickstarter. So if you want to support them via Kickstarter, check it out. But the $5,000 goal has already been well beaten with over $20,000 being raised already.
Yeah, people like that movie.
People like that movie, but also like the Halloween board game you bought me is from Trick or Treat Studios. They make good games.
Yeah, I was gonna say you really liked that one.
Like they actually make good quality games. So if you see something they're like putting out on Kickstarter, if you want to support it, I highly recommend. You will not be disappointed. At least I haven't yet. And from what I've heard, everything they put out is good quality.
When Bob says good quality, he means both like production value, but also just rule set and everything.
Yeah, like it's actually well made. It's actually really fun. If you're interested in the game, you play as the Firefly family hunting down the intruders and deciding their gruesome fates. So it's basically a 1 to 4 player cooperative murder fest.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, pretty cool.
As long as Fish Boy's in there, I'd be happy.
I think he's one of the intruders. You get to hunt him down. It's pretty cool. So if you're into board games, like I love board games. They're like one of my favorite things. Check it out. That's all I got this time, Ben.
All right, well, let's go into the movie part.
Yeah.
So it's still early in the season, so I'll do a category rundown. We have my category, which is early found footage films. It's primarily looking at found footage films that came out before something like Blair Witch and the genre became mainstream. So particularly films that are, notable for being early, but are still kind of experimenting with the style and stuff, are random, which thank God it finally happened.
Yeah.
Cannibals.
Whatever.
We definitely cleared the most controversial movie that we're going to watch this season, which was Cannibal Holocaust last episode. Oof.
Rough one.
Yeah. And then Bob's category, which is Romero films.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Bob, what are you picking this week?
I could just keep cannibaling it up.
But you're definitely not going
to.
to.
But I won't. I don't want to do that again.
You had not as bad of a time last week as I expected.
But I think that's due to the way that film is. It's not like it is a cannibal film, but you don't watch people eat people that much.
The cannibalism is not the focus.
The cannibalism is light. The rest of the film is the bad part.
Yeah, that was just emotionally exhausting.
Emotionally tormenting and exhausting and horrible. So I made it through that film without throwing up. I came close, but I didn't do it. I feel like the other films in that category are going to be far worse for me throwing up and being disgusted.
Because they're going to have more cannibalism.
Exactly. So I could choose my category, which I'm very excited about because I like Romero. He's very, very cool.
I mean, you think you like Romero.
I think, but I've seen, 4 of his movies, and I like them all?
You have, but 3 of them have been a part of the same series.
Sure.
And then that series being, the Living Dead franchise. And then one of them was The Crazies, which you seemed kind of iffy on.
But see, the thing is, we talked about that on the episode.
Wasn't it 2 different scripts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The directing was not the problem with that movie.
No.
It was everything else.
I mean, point being is like your experience with him is one franchise, and then a movie that I think we decided on that episode doesn't feel completely like a Romero film.
No, but the parts that are a Romero film are very good.
Yeah, but...
I guess my point is, from what I've seen, I like him, and I'm excited to see other stuff that he's made.
I just meant you didn't have like a deep kind of look at it.
Sure.
Which is why you chose the category.
Exactly. That's the whole point. But I'm not going to choose that right now. I'm saving that for later, because I feel like that's going to be a good feel-good category after we get done with cannibals. So that leaves me with early found footage films. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that these kinds of movies scare me horribly. I think found footage films have been probably the scariest films we've seen on the show.
Yeah, I think there's something
for me personally
about the POV kind of thing where you're able
to
more put yourself in the mindset of the characters that really horrifies you.
Oh, like last season we watched Final Prayer, and that movie scared me.
That's a good movie.
That's a good movie. That movie scared me.
One of the most fucked up endings, though.
Yeah. We watched Wreck early on in the show, and that also scared me.
Maybe because it was early on in the show.
Maybe because that was also fair. So my point is, I'm scared of this category in a very different way than I am of cannibals. I don't think I'm going to puke, but I think I might cry. 2 very different emotions.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm thinking about the films in that category right now, and one of them might make you cry.
So I'm choosing that. I have all 3 spots. 3. What are we watching, Ben?
Today, we are going to be watching the McPherson Tape.
Huh? Never heard of this.
I don't think you're going to have heard of any of these films. I'm going to be honest, because they're coming out before Blair Witch. What was that?
1990 something.
I think it was 99. Right?
I also think it was 99, but
Let me
I could
check
be
that
wrong.
out. Yeah, 1999. So all these films are from pre-1999.
Cool.
Obviously. So, but they're also smaller because, Blair Witch was, for the most part, the first found footage film to make it big. And before that, everything else is pretty unknown. So I don't expect you to have heard of any of these films.
Okay.
With that being said,
Oh, god damn.
I would like to apologize for having you watch this movie today.
Why?
Let me answer your question with the description.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't want a spooky alien to come out of nowhere and probe me.
Oh, no! No. This is not what I signed up for.
And then I will continue my explanation for why I'm so sorry with the film's actual original U.S. title, which is simply UFO Abduction.
Oh, god damn, Ben. This is not what I signed up for. You can't go hiding alien films in the other categories.
Remember when I said, hey, I think I said this on the wrap-up and maybe last episode. I definitely just said it 5 minutes ago. One of these films might make you cry. It's this one, because I know how afraid of you
Yes!
are of, alien abduction stuff.
I'm terrified.
And this is specifically an alien abduction film.
Fuck me, dude. 2 in a row?
It's a stacked season. I'm going to be honest. It's a pretty good season, all things considered. I've been wanting to put this film on the podcast for a while. Actually, this whole category, so I've known it's been coming.
This sucks. I was really excited. I told Ben I was scared, but I was like, I'm kind of excited. I was excited. My excitement is now turned to utter despair again.
Yeah.
God damn it, man.
But like I said, original title is UFO Abduction, but it's now known by basically everyone in the modern day as the McPherson Tape.
Okay.
But if you're wondering, it came out in 1989.
Oh, wow.
So
this
it's
is
old.
cool.
It's 10 years before the Blair Witch Project.
That's sick.
So this is super early on in modern day found footage. It's an hour and 6 minutes long.
Whoa, that's a little short.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these films are going to be kind of short. Because you remember the big thing with found footage is it's cheap.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
And a lot of these things are going to have lower budgets because of that. It's not rated.
Oh, that's cool.
I couldn't find a Rotten Tomatoes score at all. But I did find an IMDb score, so that's a 5.4 out of 10.
Okay.
It does have one nomination. It's a fairly recent one. It's from, the Sitges Catalonian Film Festival.
Oh, that's sick.
We've heard about that before. And it's this, I was looking into it because I was like, what nomination was it? Because they won the nomination, but it's just a nominee. It's not an actual award. It's, I think it's called 7 Chances or something. They basically nominate a film that is like a cult kind of thing. That isn't a big film, but people like it.
That's
kind of thing.
cool.
It looked like an interesting award, but it was hard for me to find stuff on it. In either case, this is a small film, so there's not really any notable actors. So I'm just going to run down, I think all the actors in this film.
Holy shit.
There's Tommy Giovacchini as Eric Van Hees. He played Lou Diamond Bossa Nova in Interviewing Norman. Patrick Kelly as Jason Van Hees. Shirley McKayla as Ma Van Hees. Stacey Shulman as Renee Reynolds. Christine Staples as Jamie Van Hees. Laura Thomas as Michelle Van Hees. Dean Aliotto as Michael Van Hees. He played Damian Hawkins in Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County.
Oh, great.
Another alien film. And then the alien actors are Ginny Klecker, Kay Barton, and Rose Schneider. Writer-director is Dean Aliotto. So we just heard that name because he's playing a character in this.
Ah.
He plays Michael, which, can you guess what is so notable of Michael as a character?
He probably is the one holding the camera.
He is the cameraman, yeah.
Yep. Cool.
So, that's a classic thing, especially in smaller pictures where the the writer, or at least the director, is also the cameraman, especially in found footage stuff. But yeah, writer-director's Dean Aliotto. He also directed Portal from 2019. It's not about the game.
No, I know, but I remember seeing stuff about that movie, but I don't know what it is. I don't remember what it was about or anything.
I think it's
I have like vague memories of it.
demonish movie.
Ah, cool.
It didn't have the best ratings. Budget estimated at $6,500.
Holy shit.
So nothing.
That's crazy.
At all, just nothing. No box office. It looked like, from what I could find, to be a limited release.
Okay.
Kind of distribution thing through like actual VHS.
Do you know if this is on like streaming service? Like, is this on Shudder or anything like that?
Yeah. I'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
That's how I first watched it. I watched it back when we were first starting the podcast because I heard about it because I was just looking into like early found footage stuff, and this one came up along with a couple of the other things that are going to be in this category this season.
Cool.
It's what gave the inspiration for it. But yeah, it went up on Shudder fairly recently. Country of origin in the United States. Like I said, original title is UFO Abduction. Tagline. And I want to stress that this tagline's on a new content for the film, like newer releases and stuff.
Okay.
Posters for like Shudder and stuff. The uncut video footage from the Northwoods, Connecticut UFO case 77. So
Crazy.
going with the whole like this is real.
Yeah.
It's like a case description thing. Okay. So for just, pre-movie stuff, right off the bat, and I think this is just very funny, the film's master copy was destroyed in a distribution warehouse fire.
Oh.
And that actually prevented the film from getting any type of wide release.
Wow.
So
that
like
sucks.
their limited release was super limited because they just lost the master copy. That is until it was eventually released on DVD and digital download in 2018. And then I think it's in either 2020 or 2022. I think it's 2020. It got a Blu-ray edition.
Holy
shit. So you can get this on Blu-ray now. But yeah, up until 2018, the film was like near impossible to get your hands on.
God damn.
It was really, really hard. I think there was some like pirated versions that people had copied and stuff like that, but there was nothing out there for it. Because the film's like master copy was destroyed and it was, so hard to release, the, writer-director, Dean Aliotto, actually made a remake of the film.
Whoa.
So remember how I said he's in another alien film, Alien Abduction, Incident in Lake County?
Oh my God.
That's a remake of this film.
That's cool.
That came out in 1998.
So
So about 10 years later.
10-ish years,
It's
yeah.
9, but And that film features, upgrades from this one. More professional equipment, actors, stuff like that. We are obviously watching the original version today, both because obviously it's the original, but I think very distinctly for anyone who's interested in both. I haven't seen the second, but this is a found footage movie, and some of the lower quality stuff, especially with found footage, can sometimes help realism. But also, apparently the remake is near identical to this one.
Damn.
Like, there's only minor changes, because it was supposed to be, like, literally a scene for scene.
Yeah.
I will note, because I think this is super interesting about the remake, is that, I said that this film's original title is UFO Abduction, right? And then it got changed to the McPherson Tapes. Well, Abduction Incident in Lake County is not actually the original title of the remake.
Oh.
The original title of the remake is actually the McPherson Tape, because it's about the McPherson family. When this film started to get, like, more well-known, UFO Abduction, the name McPherson Tape was eventually associated with this film, even though the family in it is the Hess family and not the McPherson family.
What the fuck?
But yeah, the 1998 remake was changed to its current title because of distributor stuff.
Weird.
A little confusing, right?
Just a little
But
bit.
for all intents and purposes, this one's the McPherson Tape. The remake's Alien Abduction. All right, last fact, and this is by far the coolest thing about this movie ever.
I don't like how excited you are about that.
Oh, I'm so excited about it because I double checked this. I found a interview article with the director because I was like, no fucking way.
Okay.
Yes, fucking way. So, like I said, this is super early on in found footage. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I think we've mentioned a couple times, and we definitely mentioned last week, is that before found footage as a genre became very mainstream, there was a lot of times confusion about whether or not stuff was real.
Oh no.
Right? And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this film feels very real.
That's
A lot
so
of the
fun.
aesthetics of this film give it a sense of this is not a professional production. This feels like someone shot it on a home video camera, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So right off the bat, the film can be a little confusing, especially if you were unfamiliar with found footage stuff of, oh, this is a fake movie, right? Especially because it was passed around on like shitty VHS tapes
Yeah,
that were
'cause you
hard to
couldn't
get a handle of.
Your hands on it, so it feels real.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But more than that, apparently, and the director doesn't know who did this, someone took one of those early VHS copies, the limited release copies, edited off the credits and the intro stuff, and then released it and started passing it around the UFO community as a real alien abduction video.
That's crazy.
And apparently for 5 years,
Whoa.
it was like big in the community of UFO abduction guys. In fact, it was so big that in 1993, it played at the International UFO Congress Convention in Vegas. Like, it was on the main screen.
Holy
and they were like,
shit.
this is actual proof of alien abductions.
That's fucking awesome.
And it gets better. It gets better. The director was then eventually contacted about a year after that, so in like 1994, by, I think it was technically a agent. He was like, hey, do you know anything about this footage? I have 3 different like shows that are interested about showing this footage. And the director was like, no, yeah, I made this footage.
Yeah.
It's fake. And one of the shows was like, oh, well then we don't want it. But one of the TV shows, actually 2 of them were like, oh, we'll put it on. And in 1994, it actually went on the TV show Encounters, in which the guy is like, here's real alien abduction footage.
Oh my god.
And to this day, there's still a bunch of people who are like, yeah, this is real footage. The director's just a part of a government cover-up kind of stuff.
Jesus Christ. Okay,
The
that was
biggest-
not where I
I-
thought that was going.
I think that's so cool, right?
No, that is really cool. I thought that you were going to like tell me something horrible about this film.
No.
I'm just kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm on edge from the last one.
Well, I mean, think about, though, how real this film might seem then.
Yeah.
That it went around, the UFO guys.
And they were like, damn, this is real shit, bro. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's really cool, though. Apparently, it was also really big in Japan
Oh, that's cool
because
too.
of, I think because of that TV show Encounters. But, like,
Mm.
they also were thinking it was real.
Good lord.
It's really cool.
Okay.
With that being said, we'll be back in a little bit because this is a really short movie.
Yeah. Well, see you guys in a minute. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We just finished watching the McPherson Tape.
Yeah. So, what'd you think, Bob?
Okay. I'm going to put this out there. I was not scared like I expected to be,
Okay.
but I am a little baby, and the
Yeah.
movie made me very tense. Like, I didn't scream at any point,
No,
but I
you
kept
didn't.
just going, oh shit, or fuck.
Yeah, the whole movie, you were like either oh shit or fuck. I looked at you and you were just wide-eyed. But also occasionally you go, don't do that.
Yeah, because
No!
just stop, please.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those films that, I think we've established this. Bob is afraid of both alien abductions,
Yes.
but also very specifically gray aliens,
Yes.
which this movie features.
Yes.
So, it's kind of the double whammy. But as someone who's not afraid of those things, I will say I don't necessarily consider this movie scary. I would more consider it unsettling and dark.
Yeah.
The unsettling, unnerving thing is kind of pretty obvious, but
Mhm.
the, dark aspect of the film comes from the fact that, it opens with, like, this whole disclaimer that this is, like, case footage that's been released,
Yeah.
6 years after events? And
Mhm.
so right from the start, that, like, hey, none of none of this is going to go well for these characters,
No, yeah.
which is really messed up when one of them's 5 years old. So, yeah, not scary, but unsettling, I think, is definitely the case, even if you're not necessarily afraid of aliens.
Yeah.
With that being said, though, I think we're going to do the usual description stuff, and then we'll talk about it. Admittedly, I don't know how much we're going to have to say about this film.
There are a couple things I want to talk about.
There is some things I want to talk about, but I'm going to say this right off the bat. Sometimes there's an issue with certain found footage films in which they can be very boring because not necessarily a lot of stuff happens. I know that's a common fault leveled against the Blair Witch Project.
Mm-hmm.
Either you like that film or you think it's the most boring piece of shit ever. I like that film, and I also think it's very boring, so that's kind of a weird take, but admittedly, this film doesn't have a lot of stuff literally happening in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's footage, right, but nothing major happens for most of it. So, straight off the bat, probably not a lot to talk about, but it might be a little bit boring to some if you're thinking about watching it. With that being said, the rough premise is very simple. It's about this family. They're celebrating the youngest member's 5th birthday. Her name's Michelle. So it's her 2 parents, Eric and Jamie, Michelle's uncle, Jason, his girlfriend, I think they've been dating for a little bit, Renee, the mom of the family. They just call Ma. I don't know her name.
Yeah, I don't know her
and
name.
then the cameraman, Michael, who's the youngest of the 3 brothers, with Eric being the oldest. And it's late at night. They're all, like, celebrating, having birthday dinner and stuff. And they turn the lights off for Michelle to blow out the candles. And once she blows out the candles, the lights don't come back on because the power's out. And when the 3 brothers go to investigate, they see a UFO. And from there, it's kind of I don't want to say a siege film, but they return to the house and are trying to figure out, like, how do we leave? Is there actually something going on? Are there still aliens out there? Were the aliens real? Etc. Etc. So if that sounds interesting, I would highly recommend you go watch it. Again, it's very, very basic, but I think it does a decent job with atmosphere to be rather unnerving. I will highly recommend, though, that you watch it in the dark.
Yeah.
Especially late at night. I think that's what it's going to do its best.
For sure.
To scare you. With that being said, do you want to start us off? Is there anything you want to talk about?
We can start with the most obvious thing. Yeah, it's a found footage film.
Yes, it is 100% a found footage film.
And I think what's really cool is this was filmed in 89.
Yeah, it's filmed in 89. It's set in, I think we said
83.
83.
Yeah.
I think that's correct.
So it's what, on 8mm?
So I looked it up. I believe it's on an 8mm camera,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a high-tech 8mm camera for 1989.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better than, the 8mm they'd have in 1983, but they'd still be using 8mm for home video stuff.
So the film is, like, really grainy.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff is really hard to make out unless it super zooms in and focuses on them, which, when you're running from aliens or like just generally not a very good camera person, which in this case Michael is. He just got the camera like a couple days before or something like that. He hasn't had it very long.
If even that.
So a lot of this film is out of focus and hard to see what's happening, which, while you could say is like a cheap trick, it works in the setting and with what they're going for. It makes a lot of the stuff that's happening much scarier because you can't fully understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's, to be honest, I've seen a lot of found footage films at this point, and out of all the ones I've watched, this is probably the top contender for films that feel like they're actually shot by someone who's just your average Joe.
Yeah.
The cameraman, the director, I'm just going to call him Michael, the character name for the sake of this discussion, but Michael feels like he, just got this camera, but doesn't really know how to use it in a very professional way.
Yeah.
And it just adds so much realism. Like, it's constantly jostling. You can hear it. Sometimes when he's running, he, like, doesn't hold the camera up.
Yeah. It's
so
just looking at the ground.
Looking at nothing. He'll randomly focus on different stuff when he gets bored.
Yeah.
But I think some of the best stuff from him is just the fact that it feels just like he's recording random stuff because he wants to. He got this cool toy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's so notable because in a lot of found footage films, even though they're supposed to be found footage and a lot of times are supposed to be shot by, your everyday person, I think there's a tendency because these films are being made by, directors or cinematography people to have your shots still be like framed perfectly and still look good composition wise.
Yeah.
Even though, it's just your random Joe who's maybe in a high stress situation. In this movie, it's like, I don't think any of the film's sequences are framed well.
No.
From a cinematography aspect.
Not that they're not framed well, because I think that is.
It doesn't feel professional.
It doesn't feel professional, but the things are still framed well enough that it is scary to me.
They're framed like someone with a camera who's just like fucking around with it would frame something, not in like I purposely composed this shot kind of way.
I guess. I don't know.
And then I mean like 90% of it, it's so dark you can't see the footage.
Yeah.
And all this aside, that's like how the movie's shot. What we haven't even gotten into is Bob noted that like most of the film is out of focus.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not necessarily out of focus so much as it is 8mm like stuff.
Sure.
And he probably has a manual zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't necessarily say everything's out of focus so much as it's grainy.
Yeah.
Especially when he's zooming on stuff very, very far away. And, it's not helped by the fact that this whole film's set at night.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any lights, really. But the big thing I'd like to note is there's actually some extra, like, distortion and grain on this than would normally be the case. Because you have to remember, the master copy was lost. And so this is a copy of, I think,
a copy of a copy.
The director's personal copy.
Yeah.
So there's further distortion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really good bit that adds to the whole found footage aspect of this, because it feels like the footage was found in a camera, but has had some degradation.
Like it's been recovered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to like shot composition stuff, more what I'm getting at is the actual shots of the film don't feel professional or like they were purposeful, but the way they set up, because the film basically takes place in the house the entire time. It's basically in the home. They've set up the home in ways where you get these really, really tense, incredible, like, will they scare me, won't they scare me shots of different things. And just like, because they're afraid of the aliens and the aliens are outside of the house, basically all the windows are framed perfectly in every single shot where you think you might be able to see something, and it's terrifying. It's this utter sense of, like, will they scare me? It's so tense, and the way, it's just so cool. It's such a cool way to shoot a film where the shot itself is not what is scary, but the setting and the way they use the shot, like the framing it just feels weird.
Yeah, the film's very heavily reliant on suspense, and like I said, nothing happens in this film, so there's basically no jump scare or anything to work out kind of that building tension. Bob said he was tense the whole movie, and that's why. But, doubling down, I don't necessarily think that suspense comes from the way the cinematographer is composing the shots, but more so with how the movie is blocked out.
Yeah.
Like how they planned out, okay, we're going to be in this room during this sequence, and I'm going to stand here, and then just try my best to, like, capture what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a good directing thing than it is a good cinematography thing.
Yeah. It's just so cool. There are so many scenes where there's literally nothing happening, and I'm like shitting a brick.
Because something's probably out there.
Yeah, exactly. It's
the fear of the unknown.
It's the fear of the unknown, and the fact that we have seen the aliens, like we know what they look like, but we don't see them. They're barely in the film.
Yeah.
Like, they're never really around that often. So when you finally get to see them, it's like utterly terrifying in the best way possible, because a weight has been lifted, but now you're looking at the thing you're afraid of, so you're still scared.
Yeah. Aside from that, though, I think the other thing this film does really well is sound.
Yeah.
And I say sound, but it's really specifically the dialogue in this film. we haven't touched on this too much, but the film feels really real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the biggest contributing factors to that is the way people talk in this film doesn't feel like it's scripted.
Yeah.
It feels like a lot of natural dialogue and stuff. Most notably, the scenes between the three brothers, especially when they're alone, just feels like stuff brothers would say to each other,
Mm-hmm.
especially ones who are, probably in their, 20s to 30s.
Yeah.
But then there's also lines like at one point, the little girl blows out the candles, and obviously the power's out, and she's like, did I blow too hard? Did I blow the lights out? And, it's stuff you just imagine people saying. And I think that really sells the film. But more than that, it's how they've done the dialogue, how they've written the scenes, in the fact that, there's this realistic dialogue, but it's not recorded like you record movie dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not clear. 90% of the time, people are talking over each other.
Yeah.
Right away in the film, there is, a couple minutes of people sitting at a dinner table and talking while Michael's recording. And it's like 3 different conversations are happening at once, and it's hard to focus on anything.
Yeah.
But that's exactly how eating dinner at a table with your family is.
Yeah.
And I think that really, really sells it. Outside of that, most of the sound is pretty naturalistic.
Mm-hmm. It's stuff that you would hear in where you are.
Because it's just the people making the normal noises they
Yeah.
would make, like panting, stuff like that. Like Michael runs with the camera multiple times, and it's like you can tell that camera is big and heavy, and he is not in good enough shape to be running
Yeah.
terrified. I think the only bad thing with the sound is there's a gun blast at one point.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound great,
But it's not atrocious.
but it's not atrocious, and I want to say it might be because the gun blast is blowing out the microphone
Yeah. Which,
on this shitty camera.
kind of cool.
Outside of that, though, I think the last thing that I want to touch on for just realism is, again, that fact that this is such a nothing movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much, I guess the word would be blank space.
Mm-hmm.
And when you combine, again, those dialogue things we've touched on and those cinematography things we've touched on, it feels like there's nothing happening because this is just a home video. And you don't necessarily have to have something happening at all times.
Yeah.
There's just down moments sometimes in real life. And I think the film does a really good job at reflecting that. I mean, it's a good 10, 15 minutes before any kind of alien shows up.
Yeah. They're just hanging out.
And I mean, aside from that, the aliens aren't really in the film
Mhm.
much at all. Mostly it's just people freaking out and trying to calm themselves down and stuff like that. And just having normal human interactions, which is admittedly nothing. Like, it's kind of boring,
Yeah.
objectively, but again, it really sells the realism. And if you couldn't tell, I think the point I'm trying to get at with all of this is that this film feels really, really real.
Yeah.
Like, this, I can see why people would watch this and go, oh, this is a real like footage that someone made
Mm-hmm.
and was found, which is shocking, first of all. But I think that's the sole thing that sells this movie, is the sheer realism I think they were able to achieve just with what is essentially crappy production values.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's really the biggest takeaway I have for this film. Like, it's a nothing film. You're right. Nothing really happens, but what we do get is cool, and the fact that it feels so real sells it. I think the only other thing that I really want to talk about is there's this where I'm going back to the sound stuff we talked about and some of the framing stuff
Okay.
with the camera, because, Michael doesn't know what he's doing with the camera. He's kind of futzing around with it a lot.
No, he feels like a kid who just got a new toy.
Exactly.
Like at one point he zooms in on a fire and a lantern
I was going to talk about that.
because he just gets bored of what his family's discussing.
But that stuff is unsettling in some ways because it's long and it feels unnaturally long. And I don't know, something about when he zooms in on that lamp is creepy to me.
I mean, I think it's the darkness and there's not a lot of light. But you also have to remember, from the beginning when we first start watching this film, we know it's not going to end good. Like,
Sure.
we know the fates of all these people. And so anything where it doesn't feel like Michael's focusing on the actual events involving aliens feels like it's just ignoring the issue,
Yeah.
which is just suspenseful because it's putting stuff off.
I guess. There's just something about all of these really long shots of him zooming in on random bullshit or things that's just so unsettling and creepy to me and weird. And it adds a lot. Just going back to sound stuff, there's this really this might be the most tense I got during the entire film maybe. There's not a lot of sound like we said. It's mostly people talking or like natural sound from the environment. But there's one moment where Michael is like, I need a glass of water. So he walks up and turns on the sink. And the sink just makes the most god-awful noise. And it's like this long, drawing, like, hissing sound of, like, water coming out of a sink. But because of the environment we're in and the mood of the scene, it's scary.
Yeah, that's near the end, and they've built up tension the whole film.
So, like, just like this noise, it's awful. Like, it's an awful droning sound.
I mean, if you're going to mention that one, I think the one that's equally as bad might be worse depending on who you are. So he also turns on the radio at the same time. And it's very clearly radio that's not getting the right channel.
It's like a garbled mess.
Garbled. And it sounds like, oh, something's blocking the radio signal.
Exactly. And I mean, they do allude to that a little bit throughout the film. Like at one point they're like, oh, our watches aren't working. Like
they all stopped at 6:15.
Yeah, which is when allegedly, like assumedly the ship came down or whatever.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think what's implied is that it might have happened before the ship came down.
Oh, maybe.
Because Eric says he got there at like 5, I think.
Yeah.
And unless they started eating immediately, feels like it might have been watching them for a while.
Even scarier. Which, this whole technology thing brings me back to the fact that at one point, the camera will just glitch out and like freak out because, you know, there's like the classic alien trope of like they mess with technology.
Yeah.
Like electromagnetic fields and shit. So that also adds an element of like more like degradation on the camera, like grainy stuff to the film. There's only one thing I want to talk about. It's at the end of the movie, and I don't think I'm going to. I'll
mention it kind of right now because I think I know what you want to talk on. Because I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. Obviously, this film's about an abduction, right? So we know the characters disappear at the end of the film. We don't get to see it, but I want to mention that what this film does that I think is really cool that not necessarily a lot of films do is just, usually when you have how I put it, it's like a found footage film, the character who's recording will oftentimes like the camera will just break while they're recording, or they'll like throw the camera away. You know, it'll be very, very abrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think this movie does that is so cool is they have the character naturally put the camera down and then walk away. And that's kind of how the film ends. And I think it's so
cool.
So interesting.
Because it's built up over the course of the film. The whole fucking movie. Everyone's like, Michael, put the camera down. Michael, he's getting bitched at to put the camera down because they're all in this awful high-stress situation, and he's running around with a camera.
Also, maybe we should discuss this now because I think it's always a point that comes up. When you're watching a found footage film, it's like, why is this character still recording?
Yeah.
Even though they're freaking out. And I think this movie sells it really well with the whole, this would have been a super expensive camera in 1983. He just got it.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to lose it, right?
Yeah.
But I think, and this might just be my read on it, but I think he's using the camera as kind of a way to distance himself from the situation he's in. Like, he's very specifically kind of looking through it the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a way for him to kind of be less scared.
Well, also, he brings it up. He's like, I have aliens on film. I'm keeping this.
And yeah, it's also,
he's like, I do not want to get rid of this because this is proof that these things are real.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
So, is that all you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Then last note here. Just so you guys know, the aliens in this movie are gray aliens. They're admittedly really shitty. They are literally just 3 kids in, like, alien masks.
Yes.
It's kind of crappy, and it's probably the least believable thing about this whole movie.
I was still scared.
I'll actually say the alien spaceship, which we only see from a distance, is actually really well done.
It looks really cool.
That's like, I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's where a good amount of the budget went.
Yeah.
But yeah, the kids' costumes don't look great. And I think that's kind of the one thing that took me out of this movie the first time I saw it. I was like, oh, those are obviously like, that's cheesy.
Yeah.
But I would like to point out that, you know, they're gray aliens, and I think that would have leaned into very heavily the zeitgeist
at the time
of what people thought aliens were. And it still does in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have a better understanding of media literacy nowadays than I think we did 1989, so we're more easily able to distinguish, oh, this is fake, especially with a little clue like, oh, those aliens look like generic gray aliens. But I think even though it was a cheap way to do the aliens, like these cheap Halloween costumes for kids to wear, I think it definitely would have worked when this movie came out.
For sure.
With that being said, you want to do recommendations?
Yeah, if you want a found footage film that is, not that I've seen a ton of found footage films. We've watched a handful on the podcast.
We watched a good amount by now.
A good amount, but I feel like we haven't hit
saturation.
Yeah, we haven't watched a ton, so I don't feel good making recommendations about found footage films as a genre yet. You know what I mean? But if you want a found footage film that is old, just straight up an older film, it's super cool. It feels dated in the right way, because it feels like someone made a period piece, but it's actually from, you know what I mean? It just feels like it's very in the moment, and it's very cool, and I like that about this movie. It feels very 1989 and found footage film.
Well, no, it feels very 1983.
Yeah, but in a found footage film, which is something we haven't really seen yet.
Yeah.
Because most found footage films we watched have been set now, modern day stuff, so it doesn't feel the same. Very good vibe, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Fair enough.
If you want an alien abduction film that really doesn't feature the alien all that much, and that's something that I thought was really cool, because it creates tension and is slow, which I like. I like those kinds of films. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, I think I really only have 2 recommendations here. I mean, straight off the bat, if you want a alien abduction film that focuses on suspense, I think rather than more traditional elements of horror, this is probably a good watch. I mean, like Bob said, you don't see the alien for most of it. So most of it's oh, there's something out there. I know there's something out there. Oh my God, when is something going to happen? But I think the other big recommendation here is, again, this whole category, and this is probably going to be a recommendation for every movie in this category, are found footage movies before the concept of found footage was something that people were familiar with, even from a directorial standpoint. People weren't aware of the tropes and stuff of that genre. And so if you're interested in something that's an old found footage movie that's still experimenting with the rules of that genre, I think this is a cool watch from a film historian perspective. That being said, give it a rating.
Okay. And I wanted to bring this up. Yeah, this movie's realistic and it feels really real, but does that make a good movie?
Yeah, it's a weird film to rate, because I feel like it did what it set out to do.
Sure.
It's a creepy alien abduction film that kind of sells that it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say I had a bad time.
No, I didn't either. I mean, I
wasn't bored, and I've seen
myself.
it before, so that's good. But nothing happens.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like this is tough, because I think you're right. I think it does do what it set out to do.
I think it did it really well.
I think it did it really well, but is that a good thing? Is it doing what it set out to do objectively make it a good film? I don't know, because I don't know where this film would fall. I think my huge thing, and my only real major issue with this movie, is there is so much tension built up throughout the film, and it never pays off.
I think that's the point, though.
But I want it to.
Yeah, but it's again, it's a part of the whole theme of just how depressing this film is. It's there's tension building up because there's no happy ending. There's no.
Well, I don't want a happy ending.
Poof.
I just want I want to be terrified.
Yeah, but it's not the point. It's oh, well, we don't know what happened.
I don't know. I'm just kind of in a weird spot where I wanted all of that tension that got built up to eventually lead to maybe a scream of some kind, because it feels like there should be some. It feels lacking. I want something a little more out of it by the end of the movie.
Yeah, but I think again that gives you a sense of relief that I would think would take away from the film. Part of the reason you came out of this film, I think, so drained and so intense, is just because you never got that release. You never got that satisfaction. This isn't a satisfactory story, you know?
Yeah.
It's specifically non-satisfactory. Again, I think because it's trying to be realistic, not necessarily a good movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just in a weird spot. I think I'm somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4, but I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.5. I think that's where I'm sitting.
Okay. Similar problems for me that I think Bob has, but I'm going to give it a 4. And look, I think I'm going to get into the whole thing here again, where found footage is a style, and you make a very specific stylistic choice when you choose to do a film this way. But I think it's very important to note that I think it's a style that makes it really, really hard to make objectively a great film. Like, I think it's really, really hard to get a 5 out of a found footage film.
For sure.
And with this film, I think it nails exactly what it's going for. Like, this is supposed to look like a home video of these people getting abducted by aliens. And I think it sells it better than you could ever hope to do. I mean, the fact that this was probably one of the best UFO hoaxes
Oh, yeah.
of all time is insane for, like, this dinky movie. And then you have to remember the fact that, like, the director did this with, like, $6,500.
Yeah.
Like, this is made on nothing, and he was able to make something that I think is objectively amazing at fulfilling its own goals. However, because of what it's trying to be, I think it's also objectively an atrocious movie. This feels like some crappy home video someone made. And I think that's really the thing that keeps it from going, obviously any higher than a 4. But I'm giving it a 4 because I think it just sells itself so well.
Yeah.
Like, it achieved its goals, which is kind of a 3, but then it just goes above and beyond to really sell itself.
No, there's lots of little stuff in this film that I really appreciate.
And like you said you had a problem with the fact that there's no, like, satisfactory release. But, in real life, things aren't necessarily satisfactory, You're not necessarily going to get that jump scare, because that would be nice. But sometimes there's things just going to be stalking you in the background, and you're never going to get to see them. And I think that really works, again, for the realism of this film, but not necessarily for, like, this being a satisfactory and good movie.
Yeah.
So, a 4.
Yeah. Maybe I won't hate next week's movie.
Maybe.
Not that I hated this movie or the last movie, but maybe I won't, like, come out of it feeling exhausted emotionally.
Yeah. Well, what could you do? This was abduction of gray aliens,
God.
2 things you really don't like. With that being said, we're going to go to outtakes.
I think there's probably going to be 1.
If that.
Maybe 1.
We were just kind of quiet the whole time.
Like I said, a lot of this movie was me going, oh, shit, oh, fuck. And that's just not that interesting to listen to 5 minutes of.
Yeah, so we'll be back in a second.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in a minute. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the outtake section for this episode of Beware the Board. I hope you're enjoying our review of the McPherson Tape so far. I like this film. I think it's pretty enjoyable. But without further ado, let's get into the outtakes. This first and only clip is our reaction to the very end of the film. Motherfucker. No way. Oh, all of them? All 3? Fuck. At least it's over.
You're very tense the whole movie?
I'm sweaty. I'm actually, like, sweaty with grief. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the outtakes. Do we have any announcements, Ben?
I think so.
Oh, this is, wow, a rare announcement on the podcast.
Yeah, totally unexpected. Hate you.
Why do you hate me?
You know what you did.
I didn't do anything.
So it's St. Patty's Day, Sunday, I think,
I think so.
when this comes out. A couple days after this comes out. So we're doing a St. Patrick's Day episode. It's not Leprechaun 2.
Oh, thank God.
Or maybe it is.
If it, Ben, please don't. I don't know if I can handle it, bruh. After the start of this season, I don't think I can handle this shit.
We haven't recorded it yet, so we'll see what it is soon. But I think it should be fun.
Hopefully.
Aside from that, though, check us out wherever you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, other places. We're also on YouTube, which is not great for audio content only stuff, but it does have some helpful tools. There's a search button which lets you search all our videos to see if we've covered a specific movie. There's a bell button which lets you get notified whenever we have new content. So if we have a weird thing like a St. Patty's Day episode, that'll tell you. If we, forget. Besides from that, YouTube's just a nice place to show us some support with your likes, subscriptions, stuff like that. But besides from that, it's one of the 2 major places to communicate with us at. You can do that in the comment section of a specific video if you have something to talk about with us there. Or you can go over to Twitter at @BewareTheBoard and go grab Bob's attention, Pick him up out of nowhere.
Oh, God. Okay. Don't stop.
Abduct him.
No, bro. Stop. If this movie wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm still unnerved, but it could have been far worse, Benjamin. Like Ben said, check us out on Twitter at @BewareTheBoard. It's where I post updates about the show, information about the show. Basically, if there's anything you want to know about the show, it goes on our Twitter. On Mondays, I post a spoiler post for that Friday's episode, which is a hidden movie cover that you can reveal, so you can watch the movie before we do. So we list episodes, you don't get any spoilers, and we're being vague about stuff, you kind of know what we're talking about. Then, on Fridays, or whatever the episode goes live, I always post a link to the episode, so if you want to know when something went up, there's always a link there. Last thing, check us out on TikTok, at @BewareTheBoard, and on YouTube Shorts. We do short-form content for the show. So if you like short-form content and like the show, check us out there, at @BewareTheBoard on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts. Ben, I think that's it.
All right, well, see you guys later.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.